158 people burned alive in 3 minutes. The fire that killed them was no accident. April 26, 1990. The Scandinavian Star ferry is cruising from Oslo, Norway to Frederikshavn, Denmark. 395 passengers and 99 crew members are aboard. Most are asleep in their cabins. At 1:45 a.m., smoke starts pouring through the hallways. Passengers wake up choking. They can't see. They can't breathe. The entire ship is filling with toxic black smoke. People are running, screaming, trying to find exits. But here's what nobody knew in those first few minutes. The crew can't find the fire. They're searching everywhere, but the flames are hidden. By the time they locate the source, it's already too late. The fire has spread to multiple decks. Passengers are trapped in their rooms. The doors are jammed. The smoke is so thick you can't see your hand in front of your face. Within 3 minutes of the first alarm, over 150 people are already dead. Not from burns. From smoke inhalation. They died gasping for air in pitch-black hallways. Some were found piled against locked doors. Others collapsed in stairwells trying to reach the deck. But that was only the beginning of this nightmare. Let's rewind 24 hours. The Scandinavian Star wasn't always a death trap. She was built in 1971 as the mass alia for French owners. A beautiful cruise ferry. Over the years, she changed hands multiple times. By 1990, she was owned by a company called Vognmandsruten AS. A Danish shipping company. They bought her cheap. Real cheap. And that should have been the first red flag. The ship had failed multiple safety inspections. Fire doors didn't close properly. Sprinkler systems were broken. Smoke detectors weren't working. The crew was undertrained and overworked. Most didn't even speak the same language. Norwegian captains. Danish engineers. Portuguese deckhands. They could barely communicate in an emergency. But Vognmandsruten didn't care. They needed the ship operational immediately. The Oslo-Frederikshavn route was profitable. They rushed the Scandinavian Star into service on April 1, 1990. Just 25 days before the fire. On April 26, passengers boarded in Oslo. Families with children. Truck drivers heading to Denmark. Tourists excited for a Nordic adventure. The cheapest tickets cost about 200 Norwegian kroner. Around $25. Most passengers were working-class Norwegians and Danes. They had no idea they were boarding a floating coffin. The ship departed Oslo at 10 p.m. Everything seemed normal at first. Passengers settled into their cabins. Some went to the bar. Others watched TV in the lounge. The sea was calm. The weather was clear. But somewhere on that ship, someone was preparing to commit mass murder. Stories like this get buried. Subscribe so the next one finds you. At 1:45 a.m., a passenger named Odd Hansen smelled smoke. He opened his cabin door on deck 3. The hallway was filled with thick black clouds. He ran to alert the crew. But when crew members arrived, they couldn't find the source. The smoke was everywhere, but where was the fire? Then they found it. In a storage closet on deck 3. Furniture was ablaze. Old mattresses. Curtains. Cushions. All highly flammable materials. The crew tried to fight it with hand extinguishers. It did nothing. The fire was already feeding on itself. And then someone discovered something absolutely chilling. There wasn't just one fire. There were two. Two separate fires. On 2 different decks. Started at almost the exact same time. One on deck 3. One on deck 4. Both in storage areas. both using the same accelerant pattern. This was arson. Deliberate. Calculated. Someone on that ship wanted people dead. The crew radioed for help. Norwegian Coast Guard dispatched rescue vessels immediately. But the Scandinavian Star was still 18 kilometers from the nearest port. The fires were spreading faster than anyone could control. Passengers on Deck 5 woke up to smoke alarms. They opened their doors and were hit with walls of black smoke. Visibility dropped to zero. The smoke was toxic. Burning plastics released cyanide gas. People collapsed within seconds. Parents grabbed their children and ran. But ran where? The corridors were a maze. Exit signs were obscured by smoke. Some passengers ran straight into dead ends. Others found stairwells packed with people trying to push their way up. The crew was supposed to guide evacuations. But most of them fled to lifeboats immediately. They abandoned the passengers. Later investigations found that 26 crew members escaped in the first lifeboat, while passengers were still trapped below. Henrik Johansson, the night watchman, tried to help. He went door to door on Deck 4, banging and screaming for people to evacuate. He saved at least 20 lives. But he inhaled too much smoke. He collapsed in a hallway. Rescue teams found him hours later. Dead. Here's what made it even worse. The fire doors were supposed to automatically close. They didn't. They were broken. Smoke traveled freely between compartments. The sprinkler system was supposed to activate. It didn't. It was offline. The public address system was supposed to broadcast evacuation orders. It didn't work either. Passengers had no idea what was happening. Some stayed in their cabins thinking the crew had everything under control. They died waiting for help that never came. By 2:15 a.m., the entire ship was engulfed in smoke. Passengers who made it to open decks jumped into the freezing Skagerrak strait. The water temperature was 8 degrees Celsius. They had minutes before hypothermia set in. Norwegian rescue helicopters arrived at 2:30 a.m. They started winching survivors off the deck. But the smoke was so thick pilots could barely see. Some passengers were airlifted with minutes to spare. Others weren't so lucky. What they found next changed everything. The final death toll was 158 people. 136 Norwegians. 9 Danes. 6 Portuguese. 7 Swedes. The youngest victim was 5 years old. The oldest was 82. It became Scandinavia's deadliest peacetime maritime disaster. But the real horror was just beginning. Norwegian police launched a criminal investigation immediately. Fire experts examined the wreckage. What they found was undeniable. The fires were set intentionally. Accelerants were used. Gasoline or lighter fluid. Someone poured it in strategic locations. But here's the part that makes your blood run cold. They found evidence of a third fire. On Deck 6. It was started but didn't spread. Whoever set these fires tried 3 times. They wanted maximum casualties. Investigators interviewed every survivor. Every crew member. They focused on a truck driver named Erik Mork Andersen. He was seen acting suspiciously near Deck 3 before the fire. He survived the disaster. Police arrested him in June 1990. He was charged with 158 counts of murder. The trial began in 1991. Prosecutors said Andersen was mentally unstable. He had a history of setting small fires. They claimed he wanted to be a hero by reporting the fire. Classic arsonist psychology. But Andersen's lawyers fought back. They said the evidence was circumstantial. No witnesses actually saw him start the fire. No physical evidence directly linked him to the accelerants. In 1992, Anderson was acquitted. Not enough evidence. The families were devastated. 158 people were dead and nobody was held accountable. But wait. It gets worse. In 2005, a new investigation was launched. 15 years later. New forensic techniques. New witness interviews. Investigators discovered something the original team missed. The fire doors weren't just broken. They had been deliberately sabotaged. Locking mechanisms were tampered with. This wasn't negligence. This was conspiracy. Someone wanted to ensure passengers couldn't escape. The new investigation pointed to organized crime. Specifically, insurance fraud. The ship's owners, Vagnsruten, were drowning in debt. The Scandinavian Star was insured for 48 million Norwegian kroner. About $6 million. More than double what they paid for her. If the ship was destroyed, they'd profit. Police suspected the owners hired someone to torch the ship. But the arsonist wasn't supposed to do it with passengers aboard. He was supposed to set the fire while docked. Empty ship. No casualties. Insurance payout. Everyone wins. But something went wrong. The arsonist panicked. Or got the timing wrong. Or maybe he was just a psychopath. He set the fires while 494 people were aboard. In 2016, a Norwegian commission released a final report. They concluded that multiple people were involved. The arsonist was likely a crew member. Someone with access to restricted areas. Someone who knew the ship's layout. They also concluded that Danish and Norwegian authorities botched the investigation. Evidence was lost. Witnesses weren't properly interviewed. The ship's owners were never charged. To this day, nobody has been convicted for 158 murders. The families of the victims are still fighting for justice. 34 years later. In 2023, Norway reopened the case again. New witnesses have come forward. Former crew members. People who were afraid to speak in 1990. They're talking now. Pointing fingers at specific individuals. Some of the suspects are still alive. Living free. Never faced consequences. The Scandinavian Star disaster changed maritime safety laws across Europe. Mandatory fire door inspections. Crew training requirements. Multilingual safety briefings. But those changes came too late for 158 people. Here's what haunts me most. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't bad luck. This was deliberate mass murder. Someone looked at 494 human lives and decided money was worth more. And they got away with it. If you're watching this, share it. The families deserve answers. The victims deserve justice. Maybe someone watching knows something. Maybe the right tip reaches the right investigator. Subscribe and hit the bell for a new dark truth every day. And if you think corporate greed can't kill, ask yourself how many other Scandinavian stars are out there right now? How many disasters are just one greedy decision away? Subscribe and hit the bell for a new dark truth every day.